Welcome, everybody. This is Small Business Phoenix Rising. Let's see, I got to get in my presentation here. Our crusades provide small business owners with the tools, insights, and mentoring needed to get through this tough time and back to being successful and profitable. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the PPP and Texas reopening, and we're actually going to have John Stacy actually talk about it. So with that, and everybody knows John Stacy here, I think, or actually Terry. Terry, are you able to connect your audio? I guess you're trying to get on, but anyway, John Stacy was the AdviCoach of the year for 2019. I took that slide down, but I'm just going to kind of turn it over to you, John. John, actually, one other thing I'm going to say about John. John's a great business coach. He helps us with our business and helps us stay focused. Very much the case is with most of us that are in small businesses, it's hard to see the forest of the trees, and that's a lot of what he's able to do and to help business owners with. So go ahead, John. Take it away.
Thanks, Andy, and good afternoon to everyone. Just had an opportunity this morning to sit in on an SBA meeting, kind of going through what's going on with the PPP. Want to spend a few minutes really giving you a little bit of an update. Things continue to change a little bit. However, if you want to, you can get on a mailing list from the SBA, and they'll kind of send email updates when there are updates on the PPP. They gave a couple different things that you really just need to make sure that you take care of. Number one is really make sure that you allocate your loan towards the forgivable purposes, okay? That means that at least 75% of it has to go towards payroll expenses, wages, and health benefits, that type of stuff. And you can use up to, 25% for mortgage, lease, and utility payments. But don't, if you want to forget everything forgiven, if the intent is to get everything forgiven, you can't spend more than 25% on non-payroll related things. The second thing is to really avoid pitfalls. There are a lot of potential pitfalls that are out there. The first one that they mentioned was really, again, the 25% of total loan. If you spend more than that, that portion that you spend cannot be forgiven. The second thing they talked about was reducing an employee's salary by 25%. You cannot reduce a person's salary by more than 25%, or that can't be forgiven. And reducing your headcount. They spent a lot of time talking about headcount. Reducing your headcount. If you had 10 people at the end of 2019, if that's what the headcount was, then in your calculations based upon that 10 headcount, it's important to try to maintain that 10-person headcount. If a person in that 8-week period, if a person leaves half the way through it, that person is counted as a half a headcount for that. So if you had 10 to start with and you had 9 to end with, and they were there for 4 of the 8 weeks, that would actually be 9.5, and that portion, that number, again, that portion could not be forgiven. And the head count was, again, one of those big things that they talked about. He also talked about, and not an issue with this group so much, but the SBA will be conducting full review audits for anybody that got loans in excess of $2 million, but understand that anybody can be audited. The third thing is really document your use of the loan proceeds. Just make sure that you have all the documentation you need. You're going to have to provide your payroll reporting. You're going to have to be able to prove the number of employees. You're going to have to provide eligible or payroll tax filings, and any payments that you pay to rent, utilities, and mortgage. That all has to be documented. Now, the challenge is it's got to be documented, but there's no specific guidance on what that documentation has to look like. And for the most part, the SBA is not going to be looking at it because it is up to the bank to review your documentation and make a decision on is it forgivable or what portion of it is forgivable. The next thing really is be familiar and understand any current loan forgiveness rules, regulation, and guidance, and that's why there's a recommendation to go ahead and start getting signed up on the SBA.gov website for communication on that, so that you can keep track of what's going on. And that's really from a PPP perspective, kind of a quick update. But again, the big thing they really talked about was make sure that, you know, it's all about your head count. Any questions about that?
I was on a call a little while ago and somebody was asking questions about taxing of this money. I guess it was more along the lines of payroll that you, because I guess you can't double dip, right? So you can't count your total payroll at the end of the tax year rather than, I don't know, like maybe I'm not doing a good job explaining, but did that kind of make sense?
So there's not guidance provided yet by the SBA on everything that's required or will be required, is required. And I know that's come up in a discussion. It didn't come up in this meeting, but that could be something that is going to pop up or rear its ugly head. It just wasn't addressed. And I know, Adam, you and I talked about that a little bit, if you want to talk about.
Yeah, I'll weigh in on that one there. I've been doing a lot of reading, a lot of research, just sitting on a lot of different Zoom meetings just like this. The consensus is this: the purpose of the PPP was for it not to be taxed. So it is not going to be taxed. However, the IRS has come out with something that's completely counter to that, which saying that if you use that money for your payroll purposes, your rent, whatever it is, you can no longer claim that as an expense at the end of the year. So in essence, you're getting taxed on it. So though the guidance through the SBA is it's not going to be taxed, the IRS said, hey, wait a minute, we want our money. And there seems to be a big fight about that right now. So I don't think it's definitive on whether or not we're going to end up getting the actual removal of that, the ability to claim that as an expense, or as a business expense. We're just kind of waiting, twiddling our thumbs, hoping as a business owner, hoping that they're going to go ahead and go back to the intent, which was the PPP was not to be taxed. This was a very roundabout and really, in my opinion, a very sneaky way to bring in a tax.
And so as we talk about the PPP in general, again, the guidance to the banks as far as what they need to do and what their exact requirements are is not complete. So if you are, at this point, you are going to wait for the bank to be able to tell you and explain exactly what you're going to have to do. So it's still important to make sure that you're documenting everything, you know, how much money you got and where all that money is going. But as far as having a portal, as far as how the bank is going to be doing it, it's not defined. So we're going to be waiting on the banks for a while, who are waiting for the SBA to define those things. So this is going to be an ongoing challenge, and we're kind of halfway through the initial 4 weeks, the first round. So at some point in time, you know, relatively soon, I would hope that we start getting something over the next couple of weeks as far as what we need to do to ask for forgiveness. Because remember, you have to ask for forgiveness. It's not an automatic.
Nice. So it's a very simple program is what you're saying, John.
Yeah, and the rules keep changing.
Clear as mud, right? Clear as mud.
Well, you know, unfortunately, when you know, $1 trillion here, $1 trillion there, and everybody wants to sit there and all these things have to be done on a massive scale in a short period of time. It's not surprising that from a government perspective, if they can do anything in less than 6 months, you're surprised.
Yeah. Cool. Well, tell us about Texas reopening.
Really, okay, so a lot of people have been out, and I want to, commend our mountain man, Adam. He looks like a new person now that he got his haircut, and trimmed up a little bit, so that's pretty cool. A lot of people have started going out. I think is the 15th or 18th, restaurants are going to be opening up to 50% again. I think toward the end of this week, there's a number of other groups that are being given the opportunity to open up gyms and that type of thing. Haircuts, I think, salons, that opened up, I think, Friday. And so a lot of positive things going on. I think that the thing I would mention, though, is for you as you're looking at opening up your business, 2 points. You can continue to go down the path that you were with your business before the pandemic, or you can really spend a little bit of time thinking about what you can do to re-engineer yourself, reimagine yourself, and really look at doing some things different. And because there's a lot of opportunity if you do that. So I would be thinking about that. The other thing, and we talked about it over the last couple of weeks, and it really has to do with communication. If you haven't been communicating with your customers or your potential customers during this time that there's been a shutdown, and whether you actually shut down or not is irrelevant. If you haven't been communicating, you need to be working with your customers as much as possible, communicating what's going on, because you need to keep your name in front of them. And I think that that's important. So those were 2 points. It's time to really think about reimagining yourself and communicating. There you go.
Yeah, great.
Any
Thanks.
thoughts?
Any questions? Any thoughts on that? Anybody want to add anything? Hey, I was wondering, hey, if you know of a way that I personally can get in trouble with the government, let me know, because if I get thrown into jail for a couple days and someone opens up a GoFundMe page and puts $500,000 in there, that would be great. And I'm speaking specifically to the gal up in Dallas that was thrown in jail for opening up her salon. That's a pretty sweet deal for her. She's a rock star now, and very deservingly so. What she did was amazing, standing up to that judge. So anyway, I just like to say that every business is essential. Don't listen to the people that say that some businesses are essential and some aren't. That's my personal opinion, and I'm going to stick with that. So today, also just finish up here with John Stacy. John does John, give us your offer real quick. You're going to do a better job than me. Still there, John?
All right. Playing with mute. I'm sorry, I had to change something. What's going on?
Yeah, give us your offer.
Oh, look, if you're a business owner and you want to think about or want to just talk with someone about some ideas, talk about your business, think about doing some things differently, I'd be more than happy to spend an hour with you, Zoom, just kind of really talk about your business and what you're going to be doing moving forward. No cost. It's really just to help people.
Yeah, definitely, and well deserving. So definitely, if you get a chance, do that. Okay, case study. Know what we are doing. So today I want to talk a little bit about what I refer to as the 4 marketing objectives. When we're marketing and we're advertising, there's really only 4 things that we're doing. We're either doing lead generation, customer acquisition, customer retention, or customer referrals. So I'm just going to go through and give you a basic definition of this. But in lead generation, obviously, we're taking somebody that's probably never even heard about a product and trying to get them interested, trying to get them to kind of raise their hand and say, yeah, I'd like a little bit more information, or I'd like to hear a little bit more about what you do. Customer acquisition is getting that person that raised their hand and actually get them to buy for the first time. In customer retention, we're focused on getting those customers that have already bought from us to buy more often, and more at each purchase. And then customer referrals are pretty simple. That's getting any of our customers to actually refer somebody to us that would be a potential person to actually buy. So what I think is interesting is when you break things down to the smallest and simplest pieces, it doesn't matter what you're doing in the way of marketing and advertising. If it does not fit into one of these 4 here, I don't know what you're doing, but you're not marketing. You're not advertising. It has to have an objective. And it's interesting because what you do for lead generation is often quite different than you do for customer retention and customer referrals. So we're going to kind of talk about that. So This is a map that I put together that I've been working on for nearly 10 years now. And I call it the GPS of the marketing world. And you see here that you have lead generation, customer acquisition, customer retention, and customer referrals. And each one of these branches goes off to what it is that you're actually doing when you're in the lead generation or the customer acquisition or one of those objectives. So if you notice, the majority, the biggest portion is the lead generation, which is not it's not a coincidence that the fact that your most costly part of all of these 4 objectives is the lead generation portion of it. It's most of the reason why new businesses often go out of business, because if you don't have an existing client base, you have to go out there and you have to find it. You have to create it. You have to get going on it. So just as a reference, if I was to draw a line down the middle here and I had a Eastern Hemisphere and a Western Hemisphere as far as the map is concerned, who wants to take a shot and take a guess as far as what's more expensive on which side versus the other side? Anybody want to say? You can unmute. Go ahead, Craig. Which side's more expensive, the left side or the right side? And it's not a trick question.
I think it's the left side.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And the reason why is because when you're, and I mentioned about being a new business, if you're constantly having to focus on lead generation and customer acquisition, resources get literally sucked up very, very quickly on that. And you got to be very careful in how you do that. I mean, an example, and I always talk about billboards because I think billboards are a good example. We're all very familiar with them. You can spend $5,000 a month on a billboard, and you're generally tied into a 6-month contract. That's $30,000. And so you've got to have one heck of a revenue model to be able to support something like that. That's why you see a lot of billboards with personal injury attorneys, because they make millions of dollars when they get one case in. So it's justifiable. So, but if you're a business that's been around for a certain number of years, and I like to use an example of being a restaurant. If you're a restaurant and you have a certain number of people that have been using your product and service for years and years, all you got to do is get those customers and come and eat at your restaurant once a month, once a week, whatever frequency you're shooting for. That's the customer retention, and that's getting them to buy more often and more at each purchase. Or you're getting them to refer other people, bringing their friends, their family, and now you've got them as customers. So what we want to do as business owners is eventually figure out the best possible way that we can get to the right side of this map. Businesses that generally are on the left side are very risky, and it's very difficult for them to be profitable. Ones that become extraordinarily profitable are the ones that are eventually able to get to the right side. So know what you are doing, and that's really the whole purpose of it. When we're marketing, we need to know what objectives we're going after. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of break these down a little bit more. So right next to the lead generation piece, you see media, method, and message. So each time we're going after one of these objectives, we also have what I refer to as the 3 M's, and those are media, method, and message. The media, pretty straightforward, and this is what makes lead generation so expensive, is that you're looking at stuff like direct mail, you're looking at phone calls or telemarketing, you're looking at the internet, and then you're looking at traditional advertising, where you do magazines, newspaper. It can get very pricey very quickly. On the methods, it's broken down into formats and offers, okay? So what we're doing is, how do we disseminate that information? Are we using a webinar? Are we using a press release? Are we using an ebook? Meaning that after we have somebody interested, or we've done some pay-per-click as far as in the internet, what are we giving? What's the format? What's the offer here? I probably should jump to that first. But what are we going to offer them, and what is that format? Are we going to offer them an ebook? Are we going to offer them, what's the tool that we're using essentially to now educate them on our product and services and why our product and service is good? Okay. And then the message is in this right here, the interrupt, engage, educate, and offer is by many considered in the marketing world the advertising formula, because that's really what we're doing is we're interrupting, we're engaging them, and then we're educating them, then we're coming up through with an offer. Those are the steps that need to take place when we're doing lead generation. Part of that also is to capture contact info. The more information you can get, the more you're going to be able to follow up with them. And that's really, really important. Customer acquisition, same thing. You've got a media, you've got a method, and you've got a message. Notice that the format and offers right here, I don't have them illustrated. All of those you can go through. There may be other things out there that I have not listed here, but I've done extensive study on this. I think I pulled from like 3 different books, lead generation books, and I tried to find any possible format, any possible offer I could find to compile and to put in there. And it's really meant to give you ideas, because you can bring in, you can do great lead generation at a trade show. You can do it in a podcast. You can do in an article reprint. These are just ideas to get you thinking of what you possibly can do with lead generation. In your customer acquisition, the media that you're most likely going to use is email, phone, direct mail, postcard, text messaging, or social media. And social media is still a little iffy because it's, unless you're directly messaging them, it's hard to just try to think that the people that you've already kind of got them interested in your product, unless they're being driven to your Facebook page or some or another social media outlet, it can be kind of sketchy. But really, most of us are going to rely on email, phone, and in Lori's case, direct mail. Send out cards is great, and it works really, really well. I mean, not only is it a great tool to actually use to help businesses market, but it's also a great tool to use as you're marketing to the people that you want to use your product. So
Andy, quick question.
Yes.
And maybe I just missed it, but as you're going through this, we're kind of in this customer acquisition stage. A lot of times what we've done is we've provided a bid, we've provided a quote, we've provided an estimate. So we're kind of through this customer acquisition, but they say no. Now, and the question is it no for now or no for never? And, and I've seen where a lot of businesses lose a heck of a lot of potential businesses because someone said no, we forget about them. So they end up being kind of like lost clients. And the fact of the matter is, so is that kind of in that content marketing? Do you do something different for them?
Yeah,
how do you handle those? Because it's a lot of lost business there.
Yeah. So most of the time when people tell us no, they just are not telling us yes. So we want to get to yes. And ultimately, if they don't want us to contact them anymore, then we don't do that, and either they unsubscribe to your email drip, or they tell you on the phone, hey, look, just don't contact me. I'm not a good fit for you. So other than that, most people aren't even going to do that. But that's why ultimately the content marketing, the nurturing just needs to be an ongoing process. So essentially you have a sales process where you have a series of emails or direct mail pieces or phone calls in combination that you're sending out or you're doing. And then once you get to that point where they're just not saying yes, you continue with your long-term nurturing marketing, because at one point or another, hopefully the case is that they're going to feel enough pain. They're going to feel like, hey, you know what? I haven't really talked to them for the last 2-3 months, but I keep getting their stuff. I think now I'm actually ready and I'm really kind of interested and I want to take a look a little bit closer. So I'm going to reach out to them. That's what we're shooting for. The thing that's nice is that with a lot of the automation pieces that are out there, whether it be Infusionsoft or Active Campaigns, another big one, and even just Constant Contact and MailChimp, we can actually go in there and we can actually see who's engaging, who's actually opening up emails. who's actually opening up the stuff that we're sending them. Maybe not so much with direct mail, but anything that's online, that's digital, we can actually go in there and see what's going on. I know for me, and I can show you this, and those of you that I email now know my secret by showing you this. But everybody see my screen here? And can you see this left side right here? This is Contact Monkey. And it tells me actually how many times people open up my emails. So this person right here, Marco Gertner, opened up my email 11 times, and there's one link. This person right here, Al, who's actually on the phone, not only did he open up 17 times, he's actually clicked on it 222 times. And Al works with me, so there's a reason why. But this right here is just simply me sending out emails through my Gmail account, through my business account. This is my business account right here, Pinpoint Marketing. This is huge. Every business should have this. Every business person should have this, because if someone's opening up your emails, they're interested. I cannot tell you how many times, and I apologize if this sounds a little dishonest, a little disingenuous, but I actually call people up after they open up my email and I say, hey, I was just thinking of you, just wanted to know how you've been, and have you had a chance to look at the proposal? And they're like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy, because I just opened it up 10 minutes ago, and wow, this is crazy. I guess this is really a sign from God that I really need to get with you and start using your services. Sorry, I know it sounds a little disingenuous, but this stuff works, because if we're going to follow up with people, if we're going to get them to buy, and this is the customer acquisition piece, why not go after the people that are actually engaging, that are, opening up the stuff, that are actually paying attention? That's why these tools are so powerful to use online. So whether you're using, Contact Monkey, or there's another one that's called Yesware, I think I pay $20 a month. It's actually unlimited emails, which is great. It's such a powerful tool to help me close deals. Now, there's also some other tools. There's some proposal pieces. And there's one that I used years ago. I can't even remember, but if you just Google, you'll see a whole bunch of them. But you can actually send out a full-blown proposal, detail of all your products and services, and a price on it. And not only will it tell you how many times they actually open up the proposal, they'll tell you how much time they've spent on each page of the proposal. That's huge. That's worth sending out. Because when you consider the value to that, and the fact that you can get these analytics and you can see how they're engaging with you, now you know who to follow up with. You know who to spend your time with. Because at the end of the day, we probably market to more people as far as the lead generation piece than we can really follow up with. So we need to have a priority list. And the ones that open it up the most are probably the ones that we should be getting on the phone with. Okay, that makes sense. Any other questions on that? Are those some good tools to kind of know about? So, okay, in the message, build your case of why the consumer should buy. A lot of times we refer to that as just like an attorney. You've got all these reasons and you just keep trying to persuading. It's because it's going to give you less brain damage. It's going to cost you less money, and it's going to save you time. Those are usually the big three: is money, time, and brain damage is what most of us kind of focus on. All right. Customer retention. Once again, this is where we're getting into getting the consumer to buy more often, and more at each purchase. And this is huge. And when we start with the media, look at the media pieces that we're looking at: phone, email, direct mail, text messaging, and social media. So depending on the industry is going to determine which of these that you engage with. Got a text message this morning from Jersey Mike's about coming by and getting a sub. That's effective. Adam Cook, you texting your people, maybe for an appointment. It makes sense to remind them if you've got an appointment with them, but running a special on commercial insurance probably doesn't make a lot of sense. Same thing with you, John Stacy. Just texting probably doesn't make sense, but for a restaurant, for a consumer product, it probably makes sense. That it's this is with any of these medias, it's not a one size fit all. You have to pick the ones that make sense, that are industry specific. They're going to give you the best bang for the buck. Social media, you know, for other than me posting, I do a lot on social media. On all our channels, we try to do 3 posts a day. And I get to the point where people are inviting me into their groups on LinkedIn. And once they do that, now they get 3 posts a day. And I've actually had people say, hey, we need to have you unsubscribe because we can't have all this crap go up. And I get that, you know, it limits me. But the bottom line is if people come to either Small Business Phoenix Rising or Pinpoint Marketing, you're going to see a lot of messaging, because that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get the message out there. Okay. Method, same thing. We're using formats. We're using offers. Even though they've bought from us from the first time, there's still a lot of items here where that a lot of things on the method end that we can still use. We can still talk to them in a personal communication, a holiday, birthday card. That's Lori Ash. That send out cards. Works really, really powerful. You can send your people a case study. You can do a research report and talking about maybe, you know, more business to business on those lines. A blog. All of these things are still very effective when it comes to communicating. Okay. All right. Message. And I've been saying, get the consumer to buy more often, more at each purchase. And then still we're working with content marketing and nurturing, except your messaging here is probably a little bit different. How you're messaging to someone that's already bought your product is probably different than how you're messaging them to get them to buy from you for the first time. Does that make sense? When we build within Pinpoint Marketing, we build marketing campaigns. Almost always the campaign to an existing customer is different than someone that hasn't bought for the first time. That makes sense? Okay. And the last one is customer referrals. Phone, email, direct mail, text messaging, social media. The one thing I can tell you with referrals is most of us don't ask, including myself, enough about referrals. If your people are happy, that's where you need to get in there. You need to ask them, hey, who else do you know that could probably use my services that will be able to help them? Okay. Law of reciprocity is probably the best way to do that. You give them something, you thank them. Lori, you send them brownies. Do you know how to do that, Lori? Are you able to do that? Tell us about how you send brownies out.
I do the brownies. I can do a 2-pack, a 4-pack, an 8, whatever. I also send, in fact, I have a book I can send with on relationship marketing to help them to build their business. Because that's what send out cards is all about, is just helping our customers to be more successful. Thank you for asking, Andy.
Yeah, you bet. So and I've talked about this in the book called Influence, The Power of Persuasion. That's Robert Cialdini. He talks, this is one of his governing laws. He talks about the law of reciprocity, that ultimately when someone gives us something of value, we feel like we need to reciprocate. It's just how it is. And it's a powerful tool, especially when we have an existing customer. They like this stuff. So as an example, and I've had clients that have done this. I had one group that was a networking group in which he ended up reserving, it was Man of Steel, the movie, the whole movie theater. He paid for the whole thing. And of course, before the movie started, he had some little advertising about his product and service. But there were people that were in that movie theater that weren't a part of his networking group. Well, they got a dose of the kind of things that he would like to do. Now, this is a networking group that would go on cruises and all sorts of stuff, business networking, but very powerful. And I generate a lot of business through that group. But what a great idea to rent out a whole movie theater and invite all your customers. I mean, this is where we can get kind of fun and kind of creative, not just the brownies thing, but there's a lot of other things as well. All right, testimonials, online reviews. That is a great way. There's all sorts of statistics out there that saying that online review is 78% of consumers view an online review as powerful as a personal recommendation. I believe that's the number, but you can look those up. but very powerful. You can get it in voice, you can get it in video, you can get it written. Online reviews are great. Having them on video on your website, that's great as well. It's not a difficult thing to do, but it becomes very powerful when people go over to your website. And the message is, and as I mentioned, consistently ask for reviews. Most of us will get more reviews if we ask for them. And B&I, and a few of us that are on here are actually in B&I, that is also a great way to get reviews. So what's interesting is once we start using these 4 marketing objectives the correct way, we create what I call the circle of life. And you go from lead generation to customer acquisition to customer retention, customer referrals, ultimately develops another more lead generation. So cycle of life, it just keeps going. What's interesting also too, and I didn't mention this and I should have, but depending on what your industry is, what your product is, you're going to focus on certain objectives more than others. For example, if I have a business that I sell front doors, in fact, I go door to door selling front doors, and I convince people to buy a new front door as I go door to door, I'm probably only going to knock on that house probably once every 20 years, when it's every 50 years. I'm not going to keep knocking on those same homes trying to sell them doors. Versus if I go to door to door selling banana splits, I can probably go by that house probably once a day. You know, if the person really likes banana splits, I can go there twice a day and keep selling them banana splits. I'll make them right there on their front doorstep. But you get the idea. Different businesses have different consumption rates. And that's where it's very customizable, all of this stuff. There's no general rule that, yeah, you need to focus this, or, you don't do that. It's very specific to your business, in your industry, your consumption rate. Okay. All right. I'm going to finish up with my story on Outback Steakhouse. And a few of you have probably heard this, but it illustrates how powerful when you really get in there and you really start looking at the GPS of the marketing world, how you start understanding these different marketing objectives, how powerful it is and how much you can save, not only in brain damage, but a lot of money that you spend on stuff that you probably shouldn't. So Outback Steakhouse over the years, for about 20 years, was my favorite restaurant. I would eat there as many as 2 or 3 times in a week, 7, 8 times in a month. But what I noticed is that there were times that I would go, I wouldn't eat there for a month or 2. I would literally forget about my favorite restaurant. So over 20 years, it was the place I took my girls I was dating. If I had a business meeting, I'd eat there. I met my wife, I took her there. We got married, we went there. We had kids, we went there. We went to Disneyland. So for 20 years, I have like all this experience at Outback Steakhouse, okay? Go to travel, that's the place that we would eat. Well, I still noticed that over a 20-year period of time, there would still be these periods where I wouldn't eat there for 2 or 3 times, even though the month previous I'd eat there 7, 8 times. It's my favorite restaurant. I like it, okay? What happened was in 2009, during the Great Recession, Outback Steakhouse launched this new program where they did a wood fire grill, that's where they would make your steaks. What's interesting about that, it didn't really make the steaks, at least not in my opinion, taste all that better, but it gave them an opportunity, because it was a new product launch, right? Gave them an opportunity to give the consumer a reason to engage. The reason was, hey, we want to introduce you to our new wood fire grill. If you give us your name, your phone number, your email address, and your address, your blood type, we will give you a free steak dinner. They didn't ask for blood type, I'm joking. But the point is they got my contact information. I thought it was a great deal for me, but it was a better deal for them because now they've got all my contact information. What's interesting, let me just step back here. In 2007, 2006, you could not turn on the TV and not watch at least 6 or 7 Outback Steak commercials with the TV programs you're watching for the next hour or 2 hours. All over the place. Billboards all over the place. Billboards that are $5,000 a month. Outback was everywhere. They were more than Chili's. They were more than TGI Fridays. They were Red Lobster, just all over the place. You got the young, good-looking, skinny people running on the beach, going to get some shrimp on the Barbie. That was their marketing. They were in lead generation, and they were pouring millions and millions of dollars into it. So they started this program. What I started to notice, and I tracked for the next 3 years, is how often I would still eat there. I'd still have weeks that I'd eat there 2-3 times, 7-8 times in a month. But those months that I would skip for 2-3 months at a time and I would forget about it, I wasn't skipping, because they would send me an email on a 3:30 on a Friday, just before date night for my wife and I, and we would eat at Outback Steakhouse. It's powerful. So what they did is they did this major overhaul, this major transition, going from lead generation to customer retention. They made the decision that, hey, we probably can be more profitable, and it fleshed out for them correctly, that if we pull back on all of this advertising that we're spending millions and millions of dollars, but we get in our existing customers that we have their contact information, just to eat an extra 1 time or 2 times a month with the money that we'll save that we're not spending over here and getting our customers here, the swing will be so significant that we'll be more profitable. And they did that. And it's only been recently that you're actually now seeing them spending more money on advertising. So with that being said, my offer is, if you liked what I was talking about here, I'm willing to do what I call a marketing message audit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through using the GPS marketing map of the world, and I'm going to go through what kind of messaging you're doing, how that message is disseminated. Is it in line with your industry? And does the marketing fit your consumption rate? These are all factors in all of that. And then we're going to delve into your email, social media, Google My Business, your CRM, direct mail, marketing brochures. And we're going to look at the whole thing. And it's powerful because just in probably the things that I've talked about today, you probably see some things that are like, wow, you know, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because I've wondered about this one aspect. And I'm not, you know, I say that because these tools I've pulled together over the last decade. I pull from at least 30 or 40 different marketing and advertising books to kind of put this all together. And it's very powerful when you start marketing and doing the right things at the right time. So once we're done, I'll actually put together an audit score. I'll break it all down. If this is something that is of interest to any of you, just reach out to Al. Al, if you're there, wave, put your video on. He's the best one to get with. If you email me, as Craig found out this last week, he asked for the slides. Apologize, Craig, but I did not get them to him quick enough. But if you email Al, you're guaranteed that you'll get it. So with that being said, any questions, any thoughts? Was that helpful, or was that a whole lot of stuff I went through really quick?
No, it was good. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
Thank you, Andy. It was very, very informative. Thank you very much.
Anything you want to add, John Stacy? Did I do anything wrong?
No, it was good, informative. I think that, you know, the GPS is a good thing for all of us to really understand and know where we are with our customers and what the message is that we're communicating.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
He won't throw you under the bus until after we're all gone.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, probably.
I'm just giving you grief. And I did get the slides from Al. So
Yeah.
Yeah, he took care
Yeah,
of
you
me.
bet. You need anything else, Greg? All right, so next meeting is going to be May 14th. We'll go over some other things there on the messaging part of it with marketing. And so please join us then. We'll get an email with this recording out to all of you if you want to go through. That's ultimately the slides is in the recording. I'll get that over in the next couple hours. So thank you so much. And if there's not anything else, we'll adjourn. Thank you for being on.